Some masculine traits can positively enhance a woman's face. So let's take a look at 5 of those that's commonly seen in modeling standards and the most attractive masculine facial features that are commonly seen for the most attractive women. The first, strong, prominent eyebrows. This first feature has a surprisingly large impact on attractiveness, yet the beauty ideal for this trait actually does vary across time. 4 different elements of the eyebrows influence perception of both masculinity and rated attractiveness. The first is the thickness, the second being the position, the third is the shape, and the fourth being the color. Let's talk about the thickness of the brows first. Welling et al. Studied the impact of 5 separate sexually dimorphic facial features on perceptions of facial attractiveness and masculinity. Masculinized, thick eyebrows were surprisingly the most important facial trait for women's attractiveness, and this highlights that sometimes masculine features, like thick eyebrows, are even more attractive than feminine alternatives on women's faces. Even more surprisingly, thicker eyebrows were actually marginally more attractive on women's faces compared to men's faces. So let's talk about the brow position next. Which of these eyebrows looks more attractive? As explained by Muller et al., thick, low-set eyebrows are a masculine facial feature, and Feza et al. Found that those aged 30 and under disliked the arched eyebrows in image C and preferred eyebrows positioned low and close to the eyes, like in image A. Participants older than 50 had the exact opposite preference, where they liked arched eyebrows and higher positioned eyebrows more. This clear age difference shows that relative preferences for masculine features can shift over time, and we can track this change across photographs of models in fashion magazines published between 1946 and 2011. Griffin and Kim found that the brows peak on models' faces migrated more laterally from the lateral limbus to the lateral canthus over this period. It's also possible that the relative attractiveness of masculine features on women's faces is impacted by age. Biller and Kim ran a similar study to Feza et al., this time with a more diverse sample, and found a more lateral brow peak was ideal for younger faces, while a more medial apex was judged to look best on older faces. However, you shouldn't look at any one trait in isolation, and the eyebrows in particular show how masculine features can complement feminine features on the face. Matsuita et al. Found that digitally changing the position of the brows to appear more masculine or closer to the eyes made the eyes look bigger. Feminine, higher eyebrows make the eyes appear smaller, not really intuitive as you would think. So one reason why masculine, lower eyebrows are more attractive is that they enhance the femininity of another trait, the largeness of the eyes. The color of your eyebrows can also have a surprising impact on the perceived masculinity or the femininity of your face. And this is another trait where women benefit from looking more masculine. Jones et al. Show that darker, higher contrast eyebrows are perceived as more masculine, but are also rated as more attractive on women, likely because high contrast eyebrows are a youthful trait seen in both sexes. Victoria's Secret models from the early 2010s tended to have masculine brows with all 4 of those traits being dark, or even with blonde hair, thick, low set next to their eyes, and with a peak that's closer to the lateral canthus or the eye corner than the lateral limbus or the eye border. Will masculine eyebrows look good on your face, then, you may ask? Shaping your eyebrows in a lower set position can make your eyes look bigger if that's your aim, but overall it's best to groom your eyebrows in harmony with your face shape. Barker and colleagues showed that the ideal brow for round, square, oval, and long faces do differ. They found that the Westmore brow held as the ideal when arched, thin brows were in fashion, and this tended to work best for oval and round faces. Curved eyebrows with the lateral aspect pointing slightly more inferior or lower towards the center of the ear suit square face shapes best, whereas a straighter, flatter brow, so more masculine eyebrows, suit long faces the best, avoiding a high arch that adds length to the face unnecessarily. Your genetics also impact the natural thickness, position, color, and shape of the brows, but makeup and grooming choices do have a big impact on the look. Darker eyebrow pencils and pomades can create a more masculine, thick brow, whereas Russell et al. Showed across 3 separate studies that the eyebrows appear larger with makeup than without. If looking more feminine is your goal, then be cautious when you lift your eyebrows, as it's not only feminizing but also aging. The medial eyebrow position becomes 1.4 millimeters higher as we age, and this has implications for brow lift surgery. Garcia et al. Showed brow rejuvenation procedures can lead to an unnatural, surprised look on the face thanks to the excessive elevation of the medial eyebrow. Next, let's take a look at the eyes. Large, round eyes are a neotenous and feminine facial feature. Roberts et al. Showed the eye region, the shape and relative size of the eyes along with the supraorbital ridge, is the most sexually dimorphic part of the face. Small eyes are regarded as a masculine trait, and eye size influences our perceptions of dominance, as found by Keating in 1985, who saw that smaller eyes increased perceived dominance more than jaw shape or even brow thickness. Men's eyes are typically more almond-shaped, characterized by a lower palpable fissure height, meaning that the eyes are quite literally vertically narrower, and Thornhill et al. Attributes this to the development of a heavier brow ridge, which creates the appearance of narrower eyes. Does this mean small and almond-shaped eyes are unattractive on women's faces? Well, a 2023 study examined the impact of sexually dimorphic eye features on attractiveness in Caucasian faces, and they found ratings of facial attractiveness for men and women are not related to sexually dimorphic measurements of eye shape like the scleral size index or the width to height ratio. This suggests masculine eyes can be attractive on women's faces, at least in a Caucasian example. So what about other ethnicities then? Wu et al. Compared the eyes of average and attractive people from a diverse range of backgrounds, and they found both the palpable fissure height and the eye fissure width were larger in attractive Korean faces than in average Korean faces. Therefore, large feminine eyes on women are important according to Korean beauty standards. The same study showed attractive Caucasian and African faces actually have more masculine, smaller eyes, which are relatively narrower in palpable fissure height and width compared to average Caucasian and African faces. These more masculine eye measurements were also combined with a greater upturned tilt of the eye of around 7 degrees for Caucasian eyes and 9 or to 10 degrees for African eyes, and together they create the ideal eye size and shape by that particular study's beauty standard. Perhaps these results aren't really that surprising then, as many attractive celebrities in the Western Hemisphere like Megan Fox, Zendaya, Taylor Swift, Gisele Bündchen, and Millie Bobby Brown do have smaller, more masculine eyes. Modern eye enhancement techniques, at least in the West, are not aimed at feminizing the eyes by making them look bigger. Instead, we're seeing a move to changing the shape of the eye itself. In response to demand from younger patients to achieve the less round and more upturned ideal, Turkish doctors recently created a non-surgical eye enhancement technique called brow gliding, which aims to create almond-shaped upturned eyes on young women's faces. Makeup techniques can also have a big impact on the perceived masculinity or femininity of the eyes, and eye shadowing makes the eyes appear more feminine by increasing the perceived eye size by 5%, while dark eyeliner in the waterline can make the eyes appear narrower and more masculine. Robust jawlines are associated with both masculinity and dominance. Typically, it's this lower half of the face that comes to mind when we think about masculine facial features. Men's facial structure is generally broader and more defined compared to a woman's. A 130-degree jaw angle with a jaw width similar to facial width is considered mostly ideal for men. In contrast, traditionally the oval shape was considered ideal for women, defined by a slightly wider midface compared to the lower face, and now we're seeing a shift more towards the diamond shape. Less angular and narrower jawlines, regardless of whichever shape you're following, they all have the trait of being less angular and narrower for women as a sexually dimorphic feminine feature, with smaller jaws being linked to lower androgen hormone levels. While these narrow jawlines are still the standard of beauty in many East Asian countries, Western standards currently favor a more masculine jawline for women. Comparing results from studies of the ideal facial angles from 1969 and 2016, the key difference is an increased preference for a larger mandibular angle, and research from 2023 showed that the current ideal jaw angle corresponds highly to high fashion models' facial measurements. Beauty standards favor a more masculine jaw for women. But how does the ideal masculine jawline differ between men and women? Two 2023 studies used AI to quantify sexual dimorphism in modern attractive celebrity faces, and they found somewhat similar bigonial widths between the sexes, where attractive women have relatively wide and masculinized jaws, with attractive men's jaw contours being just over 1 centimeter wider relative to attractive women. Well-defined masculinized jaws are the norm for women in Hollywood, where several famous attractive celebrities have robust jaws and are praised for it, such as Margot Robbie, Lucy Liu, and Natalie Emmanuel. Strategically placed contour makeup can temporarily alter the appearance of the jaw to appear more masculinized or feminized, while cosmetic procedures can result in a permanent effect. Widening the bigonial width with facial implants or with dermal fillers in the mandibular angle provides a masculinizing effect for feminine faces. Likewise, injection of neurotoxins into masseter muscles, such as Botox, or bony contouring of the mandibular ramus results in a decrease in the bigonial width, or the jaw width, and tapering of the lower face, which does feminize the face. While defined jawlines are clearly masculine, the sexual dimorphism of the cheekbones is more controversial in the literature. Some authors actually include cheekbone prominence as part of a two-factor index measuring facial masculinity, while others consider greater cheekbone prominence as a sign of facial femininity. The real-world impact of cheekbone prominence on perceptions of masculinity is clear when we zoom out and evaluate the cheekbones in relation to other facial features. And when we compare angular face shapes in men and women, we see this more clearly. Brazitel compared angular face shapes of men and women and found that cheekbone width in the feminine angular face is actually wider than the jaw, while in the masculine angular face shape, the cheekbones can be equal to or narrower than the jaw. High prominent cheekbones with a narrow jawline result in a more feminine appearance, and wider cheekbones will appear masculine when they are balanced with a similarly wide jawline, a square face shape, and this is what we look for when we commonly look at robust-faced, high-fashion models. As mentioned earlier, modern attractive celebrities of both sexes have somewhat similar jawlines, and they even have more similar bizygomatic widths, or face widths, where attractive women's cheekbone measures are just under 1 centimeter smaller than men's. We see this combination of masculinizing traits, such as wide cheekbones paired with wide jawlines, on celebrities like Olivia Wilde, India Moore, Rosario Dawson, and Angelina Jolie, of course. And aesthetics practitioner Tracy Dennison explains that a different approach to filler placement is required when we're enhancing masculine features. The creation of a strong jawline using filler should be balanced by the cheeks running a near to 90-degree angle along the face. The feminine face has high angulated cheekbones, while the masculine face has defined cheekbones running at a much lower angle, often parallel to the jawline. Typically, this means that masculinizing filler placement is lower and more aligned with the base of the tragus rather than the top of the tragus, which gives a feminized look. In addition to a well-defined jawline and equally broad cheekbones, the amount of fat in the lower region of the face does influence perceptions of masculinity and attractiveness, and the recent buccal fat removal trend among celebrity women highlights the current preference for masculinized, robust faces. Prominent buccal fat pads, which are stored deep within the cheek and aren't impacted by weight gain, do create a youthful, feminine, and rounded face shape. Buccal fat removal creates a more defined masculinized facial contour, which does emulate the face of someone who has a more developed and matured bone structure. Notzital notes that buccal fat removal is a key component of facial masculinization surgeries, while Pereira et al. Showed that facial muscle mass has a positive linear impact on perceived facial masculinity. Therefore, thinner yet defined lower cheeks can influence the perception of masculinity. However, as we explained in our previous video on buccal fat removal, the procedure will not enhance attractiveness unless the buccal fat pads are exceptionally large. And this is important to keep in mind when you analyze the features on your own face, where you don't give in to the temptation to follow trends. Any of these masculine facial traits could look good on someone, but not necessarily your own face unless they're done in consideration, and vice versa. And with that being said, if you'd like to get an analysis of your own face to see if certain features would look good, get visualization, recommendation from our team of doctors, dentists, and experts, head over to the QOVES website to have an analysis performed of your face. And as always, I'll catch you all in the next one.